Programang ito ay rated SPG. Striktong patnubay at gabay ng magulang ang kailangan. Maaaring may masiselang tema, lengguwahe, karahasan, sexual, horror o droga na hindi angkop sa mga bata.
Hercules. Hercules' father, Zeus, was known to slip out of his home on Mount Olympus in order to seduce nymphs and mortal women. Hera, Zeus' wife, queen of the gods and goddesses of women, marriage, and family, was jealous and vengeful toward her husband's many mistresses and illegitimate children. But Zeus didn't really care. So he kept stepping out on Hera, and Hera kept exactly revenge on Zeus' conquest. On one such occasion, the object of Zeus' affection was a mortal woman named Alcmene. Zeus used his power to disguise himself as Alcmene's husband. Amphitryon, which was extra level creepy, unable to spot the impostor, Alcmene welcomed the king of gods into her bed. That night, she got pregnant and later gave birth to a son. Alcmene and her husband named the baby Hercules, which means glorious gift of Hera in Greek. When Hera discovered her husband's secret affair had bred a child, she was overcome with jealousy, rage, and hate. Determined to kill Zeus' illegitimate son, Hercules, Hera sent 2 snakes to strangle the baby in his sleep. Luckily for Hercules, having Zeus as a father meant he was a demigod, unusually strong and fearless. He grabbed each snake by the neck and strangled them just before they were able to strike. Hercules, also known as Heracles, is a prime example of a mighty warrior. Without any more major interference from Hera, Hercules grew into a great warrior. He single-handedly led the attack that drove the minions out of Thebes. In gratitude, Creon, king of Thebes, offered his eldest daughter, Megara, to the hero. Hercules and Megara got married and had 3 strong sons. The family lived happily together. It turns out, jealous Greek gods don't let go of grudges so easily, determined to make him suffer. Hera once again interfered in Hercules' life. Hera used her power to get inside Hercules' head. He fell into madness and went insane with rage. Under Hera's dark influence, he gruesomely murdered his beloved wife and children. It doesn't get any more real than that. Even worse, Hercules had no idea that he had murdered his wife and children because of Hera's trickery. When he came to, he was totally destroyed by his actions. With a broken heart, he set out to seek punishment for the horrifying crimes he had committed. Hercules traveled to Delphi to ask Apollo, another son of Zeus and the god of prophecy, what he should do to rid his soul of this evil. Apollo sent Hercules to the city of Theranes. Even though it was no secret that Hera had truly been the cause of Hercules' terrible crimes, Apollo commanded Hercules to endure a long and harsh punishment to atone for his sins. Apollo sent Hercules to the city of Theranes, where he had to serve the cruel king, Eurystheus, for 12 years and complete 12 impossible tasks, known as the 12 labors. Apollo promised that after Hercules had completed his punishment, his soul would be cleansed of evil and he could join the gods on Mount Olympus. Hercules was a real strong man with really big goals. Here are his labors. First, the lion. Hercules was sent to the hills of Nemea to kill a lion that was terrorizing the people. Hercules skinned the lion and wore the pelt as a cloak for the rest of his life. The second is the Hydra. Hercules traveled to the city of Lerna to slay the 9-headed poisonous snake-like creature called Hydra, who lived underwater, guarding the entrance of the underworld. The third is the Hind. Hercules had to capture the Cyrenician deer with the golden antlers, who was sacred to the goddess Artemis. The fourth one, the boar. Hercules was sent to Mount Erymanthus to capture a terrifying man-eating wild boar. And the fifth one, the stables. Hercules had to clean all the shit out of King Ogus' gigantic stables in one day. While this may sound simple, this was actually a huge or smelly task. And the seventh one, the ball. The birds. Hercules traveled to the town of Symphalos and drove out the huge flock of carnivorous birds. The next is the ball. Hercules journeyed to Crete to capture the rampaging bull that had impregnated the wife of the king. The queen later gave birth to the Minotaur, a creature with a man's body and a bull's head. And the eighth one, the horses. Hercules was sent to capture the 4 man-eating horses of the Thracian king Ganymede. The next is the belt. Hercules was sent to steal an armored belt that belonged to the Amazon queen, Hippolyte. And the 10th one, the cattle. Hercules traveled nearly to Africa to steal the cattle of the 3-headed, 6-legged monster Geryon. And the second to the last, the apples. King Eurystheus sent Hercules to steal a set of golden apples, or Hera's wedding gift to Zeus. And the last one is the 3-headed dog. The final challenge led Hercules to Hades, where he had kidnapped Cerberus, the vicious 3-headed dog that guarded the gates to the underworld. After Hercules successfully completed the 12 labors, Apollo's promise of an immortal life on Mount Olympus was still many difficult years away. Hercules had to rescue the princess of Troy from hungry sea monster and help Zeus defeat the giants in a great battle for the control of Olympus before he could take his earned place among Olympians. Many years later, Hercules remarried to Danae, whose name means man destroyer, or destroyer of her husband. Yikes. One day, upon returning Home from what would be his last adventure, Deianira presented Hercules with a cloak he had coated it in what she thought was a magic bomb that would guarantee his love for her forever. Unfortunately, for Hercules, the bomb was actually poison. When Hercules put the clock on, it began to burn him. Unable to get the clock off, Hercules was sure death was the only release from the agonizing pain. And so, a huge funeral pyre was built for the hero atop Mount Oita. Just as the fire started to burn all around Hercules, the gods looked down from Mount Olympus. At that moment, Hera finally agreed that Hercules had suffered enough. Zeus sent Athena to save Hercules from the burning pyre and bring him to Mount Olympus on her chariot. So that was cool. Finally, at the end of Hercules' story, he was welcomed home and allowed to spend eternity among the gods on Mount Olympus.
And now let's talk about Hebe in Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, Hebe is the goddess of youth. She's the daughter of Zeus and Hera. Hebe was the cupbearer of the gods and goddesses of Mount Olympus, serving with nectar and ambrosia, until she was married to Hercules. Her successor was Zeus' lover, Ganymede. Another title of hers for this region is Ganymede. She also drove baths for Ares and helped Hera enter her chariot. Ancient literature in Euripides' play Hercules, Hebe granted his Lalaus wish to become young again in order to fight Hercules. Hebe had two children with Hercules, namely Allegories and Anixitos. The name Hebe comes from the Greek word meaning youth or prime of life. Juventus likewise means youth, as can be seen in such derivatives as juvenile. In art, Hebe is usually depicted wearing a sleeveless dress. The Phoenicians, who lived near Sicyon, honored Hebe by pardoning suppliants. Hebe was also worshipped as a goddess of pardons or forgiveness. Freed prisoners would hang their chains in the sacred grove of the sanctuary of Pleius. Hebe was believed to have the power to restore youth. When the elderly Lalaus were about to fight against Eurystheus, he prayed to Hebe to be young again for one day, and this the goddess granted to him. Modern fountains and the art and figure of Hebe was popular in the 19th century and early 20th century for garden fountains and temperance fountains, and was widely available in cost still.
Having anyone in his mind to occupy the position of being the cupbearer of God, Zeus started to pay attention to men, looking for someone whom he considered interesting. That was when he spotted Ganymede, the prince of Troy, who was assisting the herding of the royal herds. Ganymede had an unmatched beauty. It's possible that a mortal as beautiful as Ganymede never existed. Zeus decided that someone with such beauty had not been conceived to live among men. In the presence of such preciousness would enrich even more the gods' comet. Would that be the case? The supreme god ordered his eagle to go down and abduct the beautiful Ganymede. The eagle flew over the youngster without being noticed and grabbed Ganymede, taking him by surprise. The young guy was gently carried by the divine bird to the top of the Olympus, where the gods' coven was located. Ganymede was now facing gods of the Olympus, who were impressed with such beauty. Zeus introduced him as Hebe's replacement, and he performed the task during a celestial vocalist. Now, Ganymede was the one accountable for an honorable responsibility, the one of serving the nectar and the ambrosia to the gods. He was offered immortality and so he'd keep his youthful beauty forever. Ganymede was deeply cherished by the gods with the exception of the goddess Hera. The king of Troy and the queen were deeply saddened by her son's disappearance. To curb the pain he had imposed on Ganymede's parents, Zeus created the constellation of Aquarius, which would be depicted by the figure of the young Ganymede, and so when they looked at the sky, her parents would remember that their son was in a place of honor, right?